Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sam Betts. I'm the Director of HR and OD from Salford City Council, but I'm here today with two hats on. I'm also one of the PPMA Vice Presidents, so part of the PPMA board. So I'm not only here to talk to you about to showcase one of the things whereby the City Council won an award, but also I'm here hosting the event as well. So we'll be introducing myself and my colleagues on the call. Great that you could find the time to join us this afternoon. As you know, it's part of a series of the webinars that we run following the PPMA Awards earlier in the year. So, like I say, I'm Sam Betts. I'm the Director of HR and OD at Salford City Council, and we were delighted to receive the 2023 PPMA Award for Best Employer and Trade Union and Employee Partnership this year. I've got a number of colleagues with me on the call this afternoon. So Monica's going to help with some of the technicals. I've got Steve Hume, who worked really closely with me on the programme of work that I'm going to talk to you about, as well as David Ratchford, who I'm also going to embarrass because he also won a personal award at the PPMA Awards this year. So great to have you with us. And without further ado, we'll get into talking through some of the information that sat around the submission that we sent through, which was recognised with the awards. So Monica, if you could kindly share the presentation and we will rattle through.
Okay, can you see all okay? Yeah,
can see it. Yeah, can move on
okay.
to the next slide, Monica. Thanks. So just a little bit about who we are. So as you can see, Salford City Council, some facts and figures about us there, just so you can get a feel for the size and scale of the organisation. Many people don't know where we are. So geographically, we're part of the Greater Manchester City region. So one of 10 local authorities that make up the Greater Manchester Combined Authority. Most people know Manchester City Council, which is our neighbouring authority. We talk about our sister local authority, but one thing people don't know is that we were here first. Not that I'm competitive or anything like that, but we were. So not an insignificant size for a local authority, and a council that's growing inside, lots of investment, lots of regeneration and growth in the city, and just sort of short of 300,000 residents in the last census that we did. So a little bit about where the background to the award which we won. So Monica, if you move on to the next slide. So staff involvement and participation has and always continues to be at the core of our approach in Salford, together with a real commitment to co-design and employee voice. Trade union membership for us is absolutely a key element of that. We are committed to collective engagement. We are committed to working closely with our trade unions. We promote trade union membership, and we really work closely with our trade unions to help them recruit and appoint new stewards. And I work really closely with the staff side joint secretary when we do recruit new stewards. We do a joint induction for them as well. So our trade union is at the core really of what we do around that staff involvement and participation. In terms of what we like as an organisation, co-design and co-production is at the core of everything, not just with staff, with the residents that we serve. The narrative is about we do with, we don't do to. We try to understand the root cause of problems, and we don't jump in thinking we know how to fix things. We talk to those who do. I think there's been some real innovative thinking over many years, and that putting people at the heart of everything we do really is, and as you can see on the slide there, part of our DNA. We talk a lot about the spirit of Salford, and it is absolutely tangible in the city, whether you're talking to residents or you're talking to staff who work for the city council. And in some ways, that's really stood us in good stead to rise to the challenges that we've had to face over many years. And the values that you see there on that slide really do shine through in the way that we deliver our services and deliver outcomes for our residents. And co-design and co-production isn't just about the big shiny stuff. So people think it's about when you undertake big transformation projects or when you're redesigning services. But we'll talk to you a bit more about what employee voice and employee engagement looks like in Salford. But our different staff groups have refined and developed our approach to reward and recognition and our staff awards. They shortlist finalists and help select winners. They've developed our priorities for health and well-being, our priorities for equality, diversity, inclusion and belonging. And they've been part of our review of our leadership behaviours. So staff voice and co-design and co-production is really just what we do with everything. It underpins our approach to transformation, to service redesign. We're currently redesigning our approach to business travel, and it's based on hours and hours of talking to staff, a significant number of responses to surveys that we've done. And then there will be a more detailed example that we want to share in a little bit more detail that we undertook last year, which was a fundamental bottom to top review of our pay line, our pay structures across the City Council. So can move on, thank you. So we've invested over many years in the development of our staff groups, including our equality groups, and more recently, probably from about 2016-17 onwards, what's become known as the Salford 100, who are a cross-section of employees who really just come forward because they want to continue to make Salford a great place to work, really. They're a cross-section from across all of our service areas. And then in addition to our formal structures that we have in place with our trade union colleagues, our trade union stewards network are also part of that Salford 100. The role really is to be that voice, the voice of employees across the council. They're there to support our values and our organisational culture. They have a real key role to play in engaging others. So not everybody wants to be part of the group, but that group really do support our internal comms. They contribute to and support the development of key initiatives, activities and projects, and they go back to their teams and they garner views from their teams and bring that back to us as well. So they've made a real contribution and a real difference to changes that we've made over the years, and we continue to make, really, in terms of how we recognise people, our internal comms, communications processes. Are we using the right channels? Are we getting out to everybody? They were absolutely fundamental in terms of the development of what's called our My Work programme. So many of you will have a similar programme, which is our approach to hybrid and flexible working. They contributed to, so we took the opportunity when we were in lockdown to fundamentally redesign our workspaces, and the Salford 100 were absolutely critical to the look and feel of our new workspaces. And I've mentioned they continue to be responsible for shortlisting and choosing winners. And it was their idea that winners go out to a public employee vote as well for our staff awards. And I think over the years, because of their input and how that's developed, our staff awards now feel more open, more transparent, and much more inclusive. The Salford 100, including our trade union stewards and staff equality groups, take part as a key part of the appointment process for some of our key leadership appointments. So we have a staff panel. They were part of the appointment process for the recruitment of our chief executive, and continue to be involved in the recruitment for all key senior leadership roles across the City Council. Thanks, Monica. So whilst those mechanisms are great in terms of employee voice, engagement, co-design, co-production, And they are absolutely vital to making sure we're engaging with and listening to all of our employees, regardless of their trade union membership. We also pride ourselves in Salford on a really positive employee relations climate and a really strong relationship with our recognised trade unions. We've got a history of delivering significant transformation programmes and changes through joint working. And also not necessarily just transformational stuff, some of the really difficult stuff that we've had to deal with over many years in local government, where we've lost over 50% of our workforce through joint working. We've managed to do that with minimal need to resort to compulsory redundancies. And again, that's through that very open, transparent and supportive dialogue with the trade unions. The most recent example of that joint approach and joint working has been the piece of work that we'll talk in a little bit more detail about, which was the review of our pay structures. And I suppose we could only achieve what we did with that because of that trusted relationship that we've developed over many, many years. We've got an open, transparent relationship. We share information, we share problems, and we've got to that point where we jointly develop solutions. And whilst we respect our very different roles and more formal processes when needed, we do always maintain that dialogue. So even when we disagree, and sometimes you do have to part ways and disagree and get into more formal processes, we talk about, we respectfully disagree. And even when we've been in dispute over things, we keep the dialogue going and we keep talking. And actually we talk more in those circumstances. So that's something we've worked really hard on for a number of years. And actually, that was fundamental to being able to tackle some of the problems that we were facing, which I'll just share with you now as well. Thank you. So probably springtime last year, we were in a position probably that many of you were in a position with as well, like many, we were experiencing significant issues around recruitment and retention. So we'd seen turnover increasing year on year. We were really lucky for many years. We had real stability in Salford with turnover levels, I suppose, peaking at 8% at maximum. So back in 2019, turnover around about 8%. By 2022, that had increased to 14%. And in some key service areas was significantly higher than that. And then that combined obviously with the issues we were all experiencing in terms of difficulties with recruiting and retaining that high caliber staff, really saw us having high vacancy rates, more roles being covered by agency workers and contractors to mitigate that impact on service delivery. So we started to do a bit of a deep dive behind some of the reasons behind that. So some analysis around our exit interview data saw over 25% of our leavers citing pay as a reason for leaving. We'd identified there was a real issue with the competitiveness of our pay rates compared to our regional neighbouring local authorities. And with a number of our within a number of our technical and professional fields, particularly, Salford's pay rates were statistically lower, didn't compare favourably, and that led to that marked increase then in turnover as a result. And staff weren't leaving for promotion opportunities. They were leaving to do exactly the same job in a neighbouring authority. And with hybrid working, geography becomes less of an issue for people and being paid significantly more. That had a real impact on us, on that capacity and capability to maintain and deliver quality services. That increased reliance on temporary and agency workers was a real worry for us, was a worry for our elected members as well as our senior leadership team. I think that stability and consistency rather than financial costs was more of a concern for us. So we had some early conversations with both political and officer leadership team, and also with our trade union colleagues around some of the strategies to address Some are longer term, it's good old workforce planning. It's things around your talent development programs, succession planning arrangements, that real strong approach and commitment to growing your own. But we really felt those wouldn't get the traction that they needed if we didn't tackle that fundamental issue around our pay rates, which were out of kilter, like I say, with our neighbouring authorities. So we embarked upon our 2023 pay review. Yeah, we can move on now, Monica. Thank you. So one of the key things that we've worked on again for many years is an approach to change which follows it's not rocket science, it's probably good old change methodology that you've all used. That really at the heart of that has data and evidence in terms of that real, it starts with a discovery and understand phase. So the approach that we took was very data and evidence led, creating an evidence framework to allow comparative analysis with other local authorities that were broadly similar to us in size and scope, that exit interview analysis that I talked about. We knew that we'd need to ensure that our equality data was robust. So again, using our co-design and co-production approach, we shared the problem of that data not being great with our staff equality groups and with our trade union colleagues, and developed a new approach and a new way of surveying our staff where they could directly self-serve and update their details as well, underpinned by a comms plan that was fronted by our staff group chairs. And the result was we've now probably got the most accurate equality data that we've had for many, many years. And that was critical for the next part of the work that we did around equality impact assessments and equal pay audits when we developed our new pay models. So the review was undertaken in conjunction with our trade union colleagues. We, right at the start, established a joint working group with some key officers from the council and the trade unions. We agreed right up front what the problems were that we were trying to fix and some key core principles that remained our reference point throughout. The joint working group met weekly, and some weeks we met more than weekly, to share data, to share information, to understand the issues, and to really jointly develop the potential solutions to those, including options for a revised pay model, consider the impacts of those options, including any disproportionate impacts on particular groups, and also to be honest and share the financial implications of the decisions that we'd be taking. So it was based on a real shared understanding across the board, and some of it was quite difficult for the trade unions in terms of the narrative that was developing around this. We'd invested for many, many years as a foundation living wage employer. We'd invested in the bottom end of our pay structures with the foundation living wage, bottom loading national pay awards, eroded differentials and those kind of things. So this wasn't about a increasing pay across the board. This was about tackling the issues that we had, and also maintaining the integrity of our job evaluation schemes, and using those job evaluation scores to reset and recast our pay line. So that joint understanding and joint ownership of the problem and then the solutions helps the trade unions, particularly when obviously developing our joint communications, jointly agreeing the problems, how we would address the problems that we'd identified, and they were able to explain and had that clear joint narrative as well. Can move on now, Monica. So probably over a period of 4-5 months, not an insignificant amount of progress was made, using a lot of data, a lot of analysis, a number of different options were modelled, and again always going back to the problems we were trying to fix and those key principles. And we ultimately came back to a revised pay model that we were able to jointly agree was the final version that we could come to jointly. And obviously the trade unions then needed that mandate to understand what their membership felt of that. We obviously went our separate ways then in terms of our council internal governance, and they went through their governance arrangements in terms of looking to see whether or not their membership would support what we were putting forward as a proposal, because obviously any changes we wanted to make, we wanted to agree through a collective agreement approach, because clearly we were varying everybody's contracts. So back in November last year, they put that out to their membership for vote, and overwhelmingly, again through good communications, that shared narrative, real understanding of the problems we were trying to fix, their ability to deal with queries and questions. We got a 95% plus vote in favour of accepting that model, which we then took through our governance and decision making, and it was baked into our February final full council. So we completely recast the pay line from the bottom to the top, including our senior leadership pay, and in line with the key principles for the review, the revised model that we now have that was implemented in April 23 addresses the issues that we had in relation to pay differentials, because we'd invested in the bottom end of our pay structure for a number of years. We addressed what we used to call the sticky middle, and where we had overlapping grades, because we stretched our pay line. We were able to incorporate the uplift to the foundation living wage that was announced during the period that we were undertaking the review, and dealt with the removal of the bottom pay points that we knew were coming with the national pay spine changes. So we've ensured we've got a model that is fair, equitable and equal pay compliant, as evidenced by our equal pay audit and the equality impact assessments. Address those key issues that we were looking to address, allows us now to offer competitive salaries at all levels, and we're hoping will address some of the issues and put us on a level playing field, so we can look now to refocus our attention on the other recruitment and retention strategies around growing our own succession planning and really looking at that talent development. So we're just starting that post-implementation review now to look at whether or not we've seen a slowing down of that turnover, and looking what our applicant rates are like in terms of attracting people to new posts. So that's enough from me. That's a whistle-stop tour from my perspective. I was going to hand over to our Unison branch secretary Steve North at this point, who's also our staff side joint secretary, but he's got a Unison national commitment today. But he has, however, recorded us a really short video just to talk through the approach that we take in Salford from his perspective. Thanks, Monica.
Well, I'm Steve North. I'm joint trade union.
Can I just check everyone's hearing that okay?
Side secretary at Salford City Council. I'm the Unison branch secretary here. And just in terms of the build up to the pay review work that we undertook last year, I would say that it's a culmination of a number of years' work in building genuinely trusting relationships between the trade unions and the council. I have to say that I've been in this role since 2011, and it hasn't always been like that. I think I've got to be honest about that. But what I would say is certainly over the last few years, what we've done is we've a recognition, I would say, within Salford City Council that we can only succeed and get through the difficulties of austerity and increasing demand if we show respect and regard for the workforce. And clearly, the workforce sees its trade union representatives as its voice in those discussions. And I think the respect that the council officers and the political leadership have shown for that has really helped us in terms of bringing everybody together to overcome some of the challenges. And this is what leads us to the pay review that we were engaged with last year, because it's quite clear to everybody that working people have been struggling for some time. And obviously the the cost of living crisis, the inflationary crisis that people have experienced has only made that more difficult. And it was very obvious that, that last year we were getting to a point whereby people working for the local authority were going to have to make decisions potentially as to whether they could continue working here, purely because they were struggling with their pay. The national pay bargaining machinery wasn't delivering the sort of inflationary increases that people needed, and particularly in certain roles within the council. We could see that this was having an impact on turnover, this was having an impact on people staying in the role, and clearly that also has an impact on services and the people of the city. So we needed to come together and try and resolve this. Now, we were able to do some of the work that I referred to earlier, so becoming the first council within Greater Manchester to become living wage accredited. This had come about as a result of collaboration between the council and the union. So we'd already done a lot of work for lower paid workers, but what we recognised was that we needed to do something that benefited people across the board, and particularly in those roles where there were pinch points, where pay perhaps hadn't kept up. Well, no, perhaps about it, that hadn't kept up with the level of demand that was being placed on people. So we brought this as an issue to the council and said, look, we need to work together to resolve this. We're going to raise it anyway as trade unions. We'd rather it didn't become a point of disagreement. We'd rather we found a way to get through this together. And the response we got was positive. The council, through the HR team and the finance team, made the time, capacity and resources available to meet with us regularly. We did the same. We were able to bring our stewards in at appropriate points with the right facilities so that they were able to do that in work time and properly commit. And as a result of it, we developed a set of proposals that in the first instance, there were some issues with. So we went back, we looked at those issues, we overcame them, and we developed a set of proposals that were not insignificant in terms of financial cost, but that we believed, if delivered upon, would deal with some of the challenges that I've outlined. Those proposals to our branch committee of stewards, we got a recommendation of acceptance, but then we balloted our members before we accepted. Now, what was really clear from our perspective and what the council recognised and respected early on was that this would need to be achieved through collective bargaining. We would only be able to sign up to something if our membership, if the workforce was behind it. Council were completely in agreement with that. So we were given the space and the facilities to conduct the consultation, to conduct the ballot. We worked with the council, the HR team, the comms team and others to promote the benefits of trade union membership within the local authority. We recruited and increased our membership as a result. And it meant that we got a really good turnout in the ballot and a really strong, more than 90%, more than 95% actually, vote for the new pay structure, which was then implemented. So I think it's been a hugely successful piece of work. I would say that any local authority or any employer looking to embark on this should see their trade unions as potential partners in this type of work rather than necessarily antagonists. We will always fight for pay in terms of conditions for our members. That is our role. That is what we're here to do. But actually, there is a shared benefit if we're working with employers who are prepared to respect that role that we have, to match that with their own time, resources and commitment, and work with us. And in turn, we will show that respect in turn, and we can overcome these challenges. So, you know, work with your trade unions, work with us, give our workplace reps the opportunity to be engaged, to be informed, to speak to members, and we can overcome the sort of problems that we're dealing with. The alternative is conflict, but if we work together, we can actually deliver real benefits for people and the services they deliver. So thank you for the opportunity to speak on that, and hopefully that's useful. Thanks.
Thanks, Monica. So that's it from us, and I know we've slightly run over time there, but if anybody does have any questions, either myself or colleagues that are with me on the call, happy to take any questions.
Hi, I've just put one in the chat. I was just interested to know what the overall kind of percentage increasing in salary cost is, because, you know, clearly it's easier to get a kind of an agreement in the trade unions if there's a reasonable budget to do that.
Yeah. So we did look at it as an invest to save because we were obviously having the increased turnover as well. We had a significant spend on agency, overtime, all of those additional costs that you had. So the overall increase to the wage bill was just short of 5 million over because of the review that we undertook. But then the Chief Finance Officer is clear that that's offset by any savings that we then subsequently make, because we can release consultants and agency and reduce our spend on overtime as well. But the overall increase in the pay bill was around 5 million. Oh.
You're on mute, sorry, Vicky.
Yeah. Sorry, what sort of percentage was that for your wage bill, just out of interest?
Oh, I'd have to go back to my formal reports, but actually the reports are all in the public domain, so happy to share those as well. Or if you wanted to contact me separately, Vicky, happy to go through more of the detail with you.
Okay, thank you.
Oops.
Doesn't look like anyone else has got any questions.
No. So if no more questions, happy to wrap up there. Thank you very much for your attendance this afternoon. It's been lovely to see you and lovely to share actually our Salford approach, but also on behalf of the PPMA as well. Great to have you here. If anybody does have any follow-up questions or anything like that, happy to share contact details or anything else. And like I say, all our reports and all of the approach around that particular example that we used today are all in the public domain, so happy to share more details as well. So a huge thank you from me and the PPMA for your time, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Thanks very much.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.